What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FF Face-Off. I'm your host, Anthony Cervino. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Follow the show at the FF Face-Off. We can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms. Today, we're going to take a look at some extremely early fantasy football breakout candidates for the 2023 NFL season. You can use it for best ball, dynasty, redraft. All of these players will apply to those formats. Let's get right into it. Let's start with Jameson Williams. Now, Jamison Williams did not play a lot of football last year. Remember, he was rehabbing the ACL injury. We did not see him until late in the year. And even when he was on the field, he did not make much of an impact. But guess what? Jameson Williams is going to enter a really good situation because starting wide receiver, DJ Chark, is about to hit the open market. I don't think Detroit re-signs him, which means, as expected, Jameson's going to be a clear-cut starter in two wide sets. Now, Detroit's offense, led by the controversial Jared Goff, they were fourth in yards per game in the NFL. They were eighth in passing yards per game in the NFL. Jameson only played 6 games, tail end of the year. They used him in punt. They used him, a couple of deep plays. But we are going to see the full unleash of this speedy, big play wide receiver in 2023. His FFPC ADP is 81.4. He's the wide receiver 35 off the board compared to his potential ceiling. That is a big-time value for one Jameson Williams. Let's go to a tight end. And this is a tight end that I absolutely positively love. Now, he's a restricted free agent, but we know that the Saints are rebuilding and their salary cap situation is in the tank. I expect Juwan Johnson to return to the New Orleans Saints and pick up where he left off. Now, Juwan Johnson really out of nowhere played really well last season. Now, by the numbers, 8.4 fantasy points per game, tight end 18. Doesn't look really good, but he was a tight end 1 in 5 of the weeks that he played. So there's some pop in his game, and he especially took off in the second half of the year. Now, his ADP, 176. He is absolutely free. He's a tight end 26 off the board, going right before Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill, working as a quote-unquote tight end, took a little bit of run out of Juwan Johnson. We don't know how Taysom Hill's going to be used. We do expect him to be used very similarly. But again, if Juwan Johnson's the real deal, and he does look like he is the real deal, I expect a big-time increase in production. Now, other free agents on the Saints, Jarvis Landry is a free agent. Now, that's another pass catcher. I get he didn't play a lot. That's probably not going to be back with the team. Michael Thomas, there's a good chance he's not back with the team. So we have Chris Olave, we have Rashid Shaheed, we have Juwan Johnson, who can stretch the field. Well, why do we know that? He was a tight end 6 in ADOT. He also is pretty versatile. Tight end 7 in terms of slot snaps. He's also a monster in the red zone, the tight end 12 in terms of red zone targets. Again, it was sharing some of that work with Taysom Hill. I absolutely love Juwan Johnson as a potential breakout. And again, he's free. The ceiling is there. And there's always 1 or 2 free tight ends that pop anyway. Why not Juwan Johnson? Let's go to another potential breakout, Kenny Gainwell. Kenny Gainwell, by the numbers, did not look really good. 5.2 fantasy points per game. Only 409 total yards and 4 total touchdowns. So, Anthony, why the hell do you like this guy? Miles Sanders and Boston Scott are both free agents, right? So, there's a pretty good chance that Miles Sanders signs elsewhere because Miles Sanders isn't the only starter hitting the open market. The Philadelphia Eagles have about 8 to 10 starting players, mostly on defense, about to hit the open market, and they're going to have to pay a lot of these guys, and I don't know if running back's going to be a priority, especially when you have a guy like Kenny Gainwell waiting in the background, still on a rookie deal, and he looked pretty good. He looked pretty good in the best possible situation. situation. They gave Kenny Gainwell his best run in the playoffs, and he succeeded. Now, he got 5.4 yards per touch. Also, 4.4 true yards per carry. Good for the running back, 26. So when he gets the opportunity, he cashes in on it. In terms of fantasy points per opportunity, 1.07. That's good for the RB5. So that's significant. Now, I don't know if he's going to sustain that with an expanded workload, but let's say he does. You're getting this guy as a 133rd player off the board, the 42nd running back off the board. And if you're drafting now, that's a really good bargain, because when Miles Sanders leaves Philadelphia, Kenny Gainwell's stock is going to skyrocket. Let's go to my fourth player that could be an early breakout candidate, and this is an obvious one. Everybody loves the guy, including me. George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. George Pickens is going to be the clear-cut starter, like Jameson Williams, in 2 wide sets. He's going into his second year with Kenny Pickett. And guess what? In year 1 with Kenny Pickett, George Pickens looked phenomenal. Now, he's a little bit more pricey than some of these other guys we talked about. 71.6 ADP, wide receiver 30 off the board, but compared to that ceiling, George Pickens could flirt with the wide receiver 1 tier. I'm not saying lock it in. Could he flirt with it? Absolutely can. 52, 801, and 4 stat line on 85 targets as a rookie, 9.8 fantasy points per game, played in all 17 games. Wide receiver 3 in terms of ADOT. Wide receiver 7 in terms of deep targets. Wide receiver 12 in terms of yards per reception. He's a big play waiting to happen anytime he's on the football field. I love the fact that he's going into another year with Kenny Pickett. They're both entering their year 2, and I could see a big-time breakout from both of these guys. Go get Kenny Pickens right now. Let's go to my final potential breakout. And this is another one that pertains to free agency. And this is my guy, James Cook. I loved James Cook going into last season, but the issue was a lot of people moved off of James Cook. Why? Because he didn't get a lot of run early. James Cook got increased usage in the second half of the year. Devin Singletary is a free agent. Now, James Cook is pretty damn explosive. If I told you he had 705 total yards and 3 touchdowns, you'd think I'm out of my mind unless you saw it for yourself. When I was writing this up, I saw his total yards, and I'm like, where the hell did he get those from? A lot of it came in the second half. Only 6.3 fantasy points per game. Good for the running back, 51, but I expect that to skyrocket. In terms of production, true yards per carry, 5.3. That's good for the RB2. Number 1 running back and breakaway run rate. He's a big play waiting to happen. And yards per touch, the RB3 with 6.3. If they decide in Buffalo to feature James Cook, this guy could be almost a mirror image of Dalvin Cook. Go get James Cook, who's a 92nd player off the board, the 31st running back off the board. Go get him in your early fantasy football drafts right now. You won't regret it. I'm Anthony Cervino. If you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the alert icon so you can be notified anytime we are live to answer your questions or drop content just like this. Until next time, we'll see you later.